That's the perfect time.
It's on live. So we're gonna go.
You have to teach me all the like traditions.
So I don't expect the first one. I'm sending it to.
Yeah, perfect. I'll have everything as soon as I have everything in the I should be able to do it this presentation.
Yeah, I just sent it to you.
John.
Same for me.
When you're ready,
So we're live and streaming, so I just need to do it.
No.
Yes, I am.
Good evening. It is 6:36, and I'd like to call the meeting to order. My name is Bob Rice, and I'm chair of the planning committee. And sitting with me is the chair of the zoning committee, Commissioner Lowenstein. The first thing we're going to do is introduce ourselves to the people in the community. And the question for the day is, when you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grow up, and why? All right, so I'm going to start. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a pediatrician. And the reason I believe I wanted to be a pediatrician, I think I was born with asthma. And when I was at my grandmother's house, I had a major asthma attack, and I could barely breathe. And during this period, I had an out-of-body experience because I think my breath was so shallow. Now, in those days, physicians made house calls, and I got an injection of a new drug called epinephrine. And it was like, I went right back into my body and I could breathe really well. So I think there was a subconscious need to be a physician.
Yeah. I knew it was gonna tag me in. You see me trying to look this way. Good evening, my name is Pamela Shields. I'm the community member, help me, for District 2 up in my district. And when I was a kid, I always wanted to be a teacher. I used to take my little baby dolls and sit on the steps, and everybody had a lesson or two. So I taught for a short period of time. I did go to college, except that. So I love teaching. I think that life is probably our best teacher. Thank you. I don't know if I follow that.
You said that, right? I did. So I am Jill Frost. I am District 2 Commissioner. And I had two dream careers when I was growing up. One was to be an airline pilot, but then I found out that airline pilots can't have stigmatisms. And then I wanted to be an attorney, and I wanted to be an attorney all the way through undergrad until I realized, oh my God, there's some reading involved. And this is a lot. And so I opted to be a reporter. So
My name is Marlene Sandra Humphrey, and I would have to piggyback off of Mother Shields. I wanted to be a teacher because I want to kind of have control. And I did just that. My target audience is preschool, so I absolutely love kids between the ages of 2.5 and 5. We have the most fun, and it's probably because that's the kid in me. And if I could really have been what I want, it would have been the president of the United States. So I could have control. Control.
You gotta love it. You gotta love her.
I am Julie Carpenter-Cuban, community rep for District 1. When I was a child, I wanted to be a ballerina. I studied ballet for a long time, and that probably explains my advance then to be the head of data analytics at a state. You know, dancing through the numbers.
I love it.
Hi, my name is Lauren Davis. I'm a community member for District 3, and I wanted to be a fashion designer, particularly ball gowns and wedding dresses. But instead, I'm not gifted with drawing, so instead, I'm a photographer. It's much easier.
Casey, oh,
No, go ahead.
so we're going, Casey Chris, District 2, Commissioner.
Yes.
And the first thing I can remember wanting to be was an aeronautical engineer, and I was saying it sounded cool, so that's probably what I wanted. Twitter Lococo, zoning committee, community member, I wanted to design roller coasters.
West Cats, District 1, Commissioner of Zoning. I wanted to be a geologist. I'm not a geologist.
Candace Nika as Commissioner, District 3, zoning co-chair. I was named after Murphy Brown and Candace Bergeron, so I thought I would follow in her steps and be a famous actress one day.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Joe Weingart, commissioner, or community member, District 2. I wanted to be an astronaut because I love science and exploring, and I'm not an astronaut.
Oh, but still. Roy Lowenstein, zoning chair, District 4. It's a funny question, like, I can't, some of the comments down there about what you want to be, like, I wanted to be a teacher, but then when I was in 9th grade, we had to put in the yearbook what we wanted to be when we grow up. And I thought that was so silly. Oh gosh, I thought that was so silly. No one could know at 14 what you really wanted to be. So I put President of the United States. And I thought that was so funny that you said that too. So I didn't achieve that, but oh well.
I love it.
My name is Sharif Benson.
Oh, I guess you could be 80 and.
True. I'm the co-chair for planning. I'm also the commissioner for District 4. Weirdly enough, as long as I've been alive or known what I wanted to do, I became what I wanted to do, which is a pharmacist. I actually had this conversation earlier today at work. My parents reminded me that younger than I could remember that I said that's what I wanted to do. I think it had something to do with finding my aunt's insulin bottle in the fridge. That I'll never forget. And thinking about why she needed that, what it was for, and why the person that provided it to her was the one that kept her alive. And so I do that now.
Oh, I love that.
Cool. So you're the one person in the whole group that actually.
I don't remember that young, but they said.
That's pretty crazy. All right, well.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Wilbur just walked in, but he left, so let's go ahead and start the meeting. The first property on the agenda, as soon as I pull it up, is 1462 Brighton Road, District 4. The project will demolish a small, non-original front stoop with a new wraparound porch. Is that person here?
I am.
Please introduce yourself.
My name is Bart Overly with Blowstein Overly Architects. And I wanted to be a Muppeteer. And I have 10 copies
So we have the original,
Okay,
we have the,
Oh, let me blow it up.
okay.
Do we have
Yeah,
like what
go
he
ahead.
was handing out? Feel free to hand them out.
May have
Yeah, yes, please.
They're-
I'll go ahead and
They're
pull it up.
slightly updated, but
Okay.
not.
I have it.
Like one.
In this case, yeah.
You see it. Oh, actually, that's a more complicated process. Yeah, I think that we sit down.
you have 3 minutes to describe your project and the variances you're requesting.
Okay, so this is 1462 Bryden Road. We're demolishing a non-original stoop and canopy and recreating what was original to the property, which is a wraparound porch. The variances that we're requesting, there's a 30-foot vision triangle for this site, since it's a corner site, kind of a suburban code, but we're requesting to reduce that to 10 feet. We're also building this wraparound porch to within 10 inches of the east property line. There's actually, if you look at that drawing that's displayed right now, there's a significant setback from Miller Street, Miller Avenue, and we're building out the existing building face with the wraparound porch, just basically recreating what was existing turn of the century. And I can answer any questions you have.
So I'll start out, in the description, there's discussion of a 12-foot wall. Where and what is it?
12-inch wall.
Oh, 12 inch.
12-inch. So,
That's very different.
Yes.
yeah, that is very different. So, we have worked with the right-of-way folks with the city to produce a solution that's acceptable to them to build the lawn out into the right-of-way up to the sidewalk.
Mhm.
And so there will be a 12-inch limestone low retaining wall that the lawn will taper down to, and then there will be a wrought iron fence above that, which is mostly transparent, but that will wrap around this new lawn. So,
Does planning have any other questions? Hearing none, Commissioner Lowenstein, the floor is yours.
I would just note that any issue there might be associated with the vision triangle, I think, is reduced by the fact that that the city built the, what's the right term for that, where they white?
it's like a bulb out. A bulb out.
A bulb out, thank you, I didn't know the right term. So in fact, cars can't, going south on Miller, pull up to Bryden right along, the sidewalk.
Yes.
They're moved over a dozen feet or whatever by that, and so I think that issue goes away. In my opinion, I don't see it.
Yeah, the new site plan that I've distributed
Yeah,
shows that, and shows that 10-foot vision triangle kind of past that bulb out.
yeah, so plus it's a four-way stop. Now, that might not always be true, this is gonna last for 50 years. Huh? Say again?
It's a three-way stop.
Three-way, but I'm just saying, both streets, cars have to stop anyway, so going both ways, so you're not likely to pull up to the stop sign on Miller and then there's some car going 50 on Bryden through. It might happen once a year, but I mean, it's not a risk. So to me, that's not much of an issue. And I think returning the porch more to its historic style seems like a plus. So I don't really have any questions. Anyone else?
Any community comments? Hearing none, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the project.
So moved, Benson.
Benson moved, second.
Second Lord.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the project. All those in favor, raise your hand. Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you. Would you take care of?
Sure. So, all right. So your next stop is gonna be the zone, even though zoning's here, you notice we didn't vote tonight. Zoning votes at the site visit meeting. And that will be held, what day? Who's looked this up? My vice chair always is on top of this.
Sorry, I'm slow. It is the 4th.
October 4th.
Yes.
So that's a Saturday morning, October 4th. So, let's see, how many cases do we have tonight?
4.
That are active? 4?
Four.
So I think we should, probably we're okay starting at 9. Sound good? So this will be the first one up. So, do you know the deal here?
No,
Okay,
do I
I'll
need to be
explain you.
present
It's
for
very
this?
simple. So, for the site visit meeting, the same neighbors of the site who will get notice to the city council here, or it's BZA?
BZA.
BZA. The BZA hearing, they'll get the same notice, but we're inviting them to come to the site visit meeting where the zoning committee will vote. So you have a whole bunch of postcards here and a list of who needs to get the invitation. So it's just the developer to fill them out. The card needs, you'll see when you look at the card, it needs, it's the nearest area commission, and then the date and location. So it'll be October 4th at 9 a.m. The location will be the site itself. And you can fill out the rest. It's pretty obvious. So you're going to have to fill out the cards, and you don't have, you could do it now out in the hall in the lobby, or you could do it at your leisure and return them. Mr. Ovalle, who's our neighborhood liaison person, he'll be the one who actually sells them. So you don't mail them yourself, you bring them back to Mr. Ovalle, whose office is on the first.
Are those labels right there?
The labels are, well, they're the ones that you put on your
Right.
zoning application.
So I'm just gonna do it in the hall.
Okay,
And I'll see, and do I need to be there on the 4th?
you
Yeah.
sure do, or someone representing
The owner will be there at least.
Well, but someone who knows what's gonna be done, who can talk about it, should be there.
Okay,
October 4th, 9 a.m., got it?
got it.
You can have these back too.
You can have them
Okay.
back.
At the same
Thanks.
time.
We'll want some of these on the site.
How many copies?
I would just bring all 10.
Yeah, all 10 back.
I would bring all 10.
The zoning committee will be smaller than this whole group, but there could be a
Okay.
few neighbors, so people like to see.
All right,
the-
thanks.
Mr. Lowenstein, what you said?
What was that?
So
Okay,
what
the
you're
next
saying
property up is
Starting at 9.
going to be 1461 Franklin, District 4, to allow a 4-unit dwelling in the R3 residential district. And would you pull that one up?
Absolutely. I'll show you the site plan. Location, yeah, no, there it is.
Oh, it's one of those.
Yeah, very similar. He did say that's what we were gonna do.
I don't know.
It's all right.
This is something you want.
Perfect, this is something very much.
That's where Cliff is, but I'll do my best.
And I'll go around and pass the next one out as well, but say unless we get off.
All right.
They don't. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Mr. Rigby, you know the entire building, I have 3
Yes.
lots to describe the project.
Yep. We're starting with
Please come to
1461, or are we starting with, 1461 Franklin? Hi there, I'm Nitzan Levy. I was hoping to be a Lego builder, so I guess I did the next best thing, building regular buildings.
Is that a job?
That's
a job.
Oh,
Well, retirement plan, maybe. But, so this is, I'm proposing a 4-unit apartment complex. I already came to NEAC last month and back in July proposing a very similar property. And the actual layout of the space itself is going to be identical. I wasn't sure which order I was going to be in. So if you look at the second packet I gave you, that's where the more zoomed in version of the floor layout is. Like I said, it's identical to the one I presented last month. And the variance list is very similar, but varies slightly because each property is a little different. I can go through individual variances if necessary.
We have just.
Of course.
Let everybody know, Jackson.
Yep. So the first one is I'll be looking forward to provide instead of a 4-foot landscape buffer, just to provide a fence along the sides of the property. That's to stop any light shining into the neighbor's house. Obviously, at the back of the property in Old Town East, you don't really have too many houses in the back, so it's not too big of a concern. To allow for stacked parking. Our goal for all these projects is to maximize parking for each space, so that it would allow for each unit to have 2 parking spaces, but they would be stacked. Since after I submitted this, I'm not sure if you guys had the most updated, they asked me to include a maneuvering variance on there, so that's on this list of variances here. The city requested that. And then the next one will be on a single family dwelling, permit R3 district, and a 4 family is proposed on an R3 zoned property. As well as lot width minimums, lot coverage, and building line to permit a building line of 15.9 feet in lieu of the 24.5 feet. And maximum side yard.
Thank you. Any questions from the planning committee? Lawrence?
Yes, I do have a question. Sorry, it's not really, I'm not sure if it's really clear. How are the people in the front getting to the back?
So there should be a sidewalk on the side of the, going across the side. So there's at least 3 feet on the side of the property. There'll be a little sidewalk. On one side or the other.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah.
And then then you'll have a fence right there? Is that what you're
Yep, there'll be a fence
proposing
over
right
there as well. Yep. So right now there's an existing fence to the right where that house is for most of the property. So we'll either continue it or leave that section unfenced, depending on what kind of I guess what we like to do with the neighbors. We always like to communicate that.
She might have more.
Yeah, of course.
No?
Oh, no,
Okay.
sorry, I'm just processing.
Mr. Besson?
I'm gonna ask you the same questions we asked last time, because I noticed it's the exact same floor plan. We already had a discussion about if the porch was to be swung out to the edges and is within a certain distance.
It's similar. I don't know if you were here for the general board, but we can't be within 5 feet of the property line. Otherwise, all the material on the front porch have to be non-combustible, which would make it non-cost effective. So that's
Understand that.
1 or 2 feet gets pretty expensive.
Are those already maximized to take?
Yep,
kind of take
that's
advantage
gonna
of
be, yes, up to the point from a design perspective. I didn't want the porch to end halfway on a window, so yeah.
that? Sounds good.
Any other
Thank
planning
you.
questions? Hearing none, Commissioner Lowenstein.
I would first say that block on Franklin, since I'm real familiar with that needs some help. We were gonna, about 2 years ago, somebody was gonna build a fourplex on the other side of the street. I don't know if that lot is still available.
Or that community garden?
No, further west, further west, there's I think.
There is a 4-unit, two doors down.
Well,
That's an old.
someone was gonna build a new one. I'm almost certain it was on that block, but it didn't happen. Maybe that is where it got, I don't know, but I'm just saying, like, that I'm glad to see some development on that street, but I do have a question for you. The building that's on the corner that fronts on Miller,
Mhm.
I mean, that was a Section 8 property that has been boarded for now a long time. I wonder if you have any information about what is going on with that?
I've been poking my nose around there because I would like something to be done. If I'm gonna be building something new, I'd like
Yeah.
something nice to be next door. I haven't heard anything solid back from what I understand. They did gut it recently. And they do plan on doing something with it, but from only information I got was just talking to all the neighbors, and
Yeah.
every neighbor told me a different
Well,
rumor from what they heard.
I hope so. I'm just saying, I imagine you would want to put all this money into property next to something that's never going anywhere. That's all I have.
I have a question for you. Maybe you guys know on the AT&T Bell building. Do you guys know, does AT&T still operate out of there? Do they do anything out of that building?
Not to my knowledge, but anybody know? It's a beautiful building. It's
Yeah.
like,
I thought it was a forgotten building, then I saw like a new AT&T logo on it, and I was surprised.
yeah, they might be still doing something out of it, but I never seen the activity there, so I'm.
I mean, admittedly, I've grown.
That's what I see.
I don't think anybody shows up every day to work, but I just want to know if it was like still like a substation or something like that. If there's ever a future for the building.
I don't know, it's not for sale, but.
Yeah.
Well.
All right.
Anybody else? No?
Any community comments about this project and properties? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the project.
So move Benson.
Benson moved, second.
Second, Shields.
Shields, second. Been moved and seconded to approve the project. All those in favor, raise your hand, please. It's unanimous. Thank you. Commissioner Holstein?
Yeah, so this will be October 4th, 9:20.
I'll grab it when I grab the next.
Okay, the next property is 183 Miami Avenue, District 1, another 4-unit dwelling on a lot in District 1.
I also wanted just to mention it was North Miami, just to make sure that the record is set straight on that.
There is no South Miami.
That's true, it's South 19th.
So I live on Miami Avenue and I don't use North Miami Avenue.
Alrighty, so this project's gonna be very similar. It's, I think the difference, is you're not gonna see the difference on the paper, but it's like 3 inches more narrow, to fit the lot. Let's see, it's right there. That's the beautiful green right there. So variances are gonna be very similar, with a few, slight variations, because the zoning, is different. This one's zoned R2F, while the other one is zoned R3. But a similar request for the landscaping buffer to replace, like a fence to replace the landscaping buffer. Over here, we will have only 4 parking spaces, just because that's kind of the size of the lot. And we are requesting a variance to allow for 8.5 feet for each parking space, instead of the required 9. It goes back to that similar thing. We wanted to make sure we had enough space there. For the fun of it, I parked 4 cars next to each other at 8.5 feet. And people can open their doors, can get in and out comfortably. It's a little bit more narrow than it's ideal, but it can operate. Many people park in spaces similar size. On this property, there'll only be 1 parking space per unit. We were not able to fit in the stack parking over here, so we're also requesting a parking variance. Shallow lot, and the building's a little bit further back off the sidewalk, so you can find that too. So it gets a little tougher. And then the same lot width variance, lot coverage, side yard variances, and the city requested that we add a lot area requirement, which is for R2F, is required all lots to be 6,000 square feet. This lot's only 4,375 square feet. So that was added from our original submission. And then they also requested a minimum side yard to vary from 5 feet, which is another side yard variance. So we put those on there. But
So these three, again, 3 feet on each side?
yeah, there'll be 3 feet on each side to allow for people to walk fast.
I have,
Planning questions, Commissioner Benson?
what are the challenges that this, looks like it's a narrow lot and the other maybe not as deep, as opposed to the others that you have?
Inches more narrow. Like the property, the only difference in the inside is going to be is you'll have about 1.5 inches, 2 inches smaller in each of the units. No noticeable difference. It's just the original design was for one size, and this lot just varies by a mile. Besides that, we shouldn't have too many more.
That's what the same question, but I think I already know the answers.
Porch, same question on the porch.
I got you.
On all of the places, and it has to do with just combustibility.
Always just gotta stress that with.
You ask every time, and I'm happy to answer every time.
Appreciate it.
But it's also the window.
It's the combination of the two. So like they're gonna have to shrink the window size, which I'd rather not do that. And you're only gonna potentially or get rid of the window. That's if I get rid of the window, then I could increase the width of it. But I think that like extra 1 foot of porch is not worth a window in front of the house.
Any other planning questions? Lauren?
No, I would actually.
Oh. But it was not.
But it was,
How many, and this is just, I'm just curious, how many of these have you done with units facing out?
How many?
Prior to or before?
Like the front door facing the alley.
Yes.
I have not done specific units that the front door is facing the alley, but I have a lot of apartments that the back door is facing the alley, and they use that as the primary entrance. It's never been a major issue. And on all my properties, I also put security cameras, lots of lighting, and everything, so the tenants always feel comfortable and safe.
I get it, I'm just a person who.
It's never hurts to ask.
Is the alley clean?
Oh yeah.
That's right. No, that's.
You know, like.
So if the alley is not clean, I try to always kind of go above and beyond and clean up the space, just even if it's not my responsibility, or I call 311 if there's bulk pickup drop-offs. I can't count the number of times I've had to pick up mattresses, beds, stuff like that off the alley and dump them myself because the city takes, I'll be there in 2-3 weeks, and
Community member Davis?
alley's got to get quick.
Whose trees are those?
This is an old photo. I don't know if the trees, this is 2019.
That is my tree.
Those are your trees?
Yes. Yeah, that on this property, this tree will go, fortunately.
Will they,
new trees will be planted. I always try at least 2 is my goal.
but not old growth, right?
Of course, that'll be new growth, can't be, yeah.
well, there's more than just the one.
So there's one back, that one back there is on the neighbor's property, I believe.
Wouldn't it like, Sharif, if you like went down the street and then looked back, you can.
To get like a.
Side view, yeah, because since they have it, you gotta come.
Yeah, it's, yeah. It looks like there may
Well,
be
anyway,
2 there.
there's just multiple trees. I think I'm seeing 1, 2, maybe the third one, 4, 5 in total. Are those
So I know-
all on your property, or have they cut down some?
So it's a mix and match. I think there were some invasive plants that are growing into the foundation of the neighbor's property that I believe they have chopped down some of those. I think that's the roots the root base you're seeing, not root base, the trunk base you're seeing there, I believe is one of them. I know they've done it a handful of times, but try to retain trees when it's possible, but if it's in the middle of the lot, unfortunately.
Well, those are on the side, and that's just why.
No, those over there, yeah. I'm not gonna be digging against the neighbor's foundation, to go after a tree.
But,
Chair.
Commissioner Frost?
Can we go back to the back porch entry alley situation?
Mm-hmm.
So, and this probably came up and I apologize for not remembering. Is there a buffer between the porch and the alley? So I know we talked a lot about putting porches in because it.
You're not, so that, the back porch is not on the alley itself. You have all the parking in the backyard, in the rear yard.
So if I'm sitting on my back porch, what am I looking at?
You'd be looking first at, I guess, you'll see first is the yard, and then you'll see your cars, and then you'll see the,
So there's no fencing, no sightline break, I'm just.
no,
looking at the
no
park.
fencing plan, but if that's something that we have to do, that we will do. I've done it in the past where some of the tenants have requested fencing so they can let their dogs out in the yard. I've done it many times, I'm always happy to do it. I try to make my places, dog and people, friendly.
And I think we appreciate the porch. I was just wondering about its value if people don't feel comfortable sitting on said porch.
Either way, I would put the porch either way, because it also acts as a protective screening for rain, snow, stuff like that. So if you wanted to leave something out, even if you're looking at a brick wall, I would put a porch there just to protect the doors and the entryway. So if somebody's trying to fumble for their keys, at least they have some rain coverage.
Rutherford Fairfield. Smell like crown.
Any other planning questions? Commissioner Lowenstein.
I don't have anything. Anybody want to ask it? Yeah, I know.
All right, any community comment? Hearing none, I entertain a motion to approve the project.
So moved. Benson.
Vincent has moved, is there a second? Wilbur is seconded. It's been moved and seconded, all those in favor, raise your hands, please. I think it is unanimous again.
Hey, have you talked to the group?
With,
So.
oh, the civic group.
Yeah.
I have not,
Both
yeah.
on both of these, really.
I will make sure to go to, I think it's Tina and, I'm checking.
The first one was Franklin Park.
Yeah, on the one on Frank. So I'll make sure to reach out.
Yeah, the one on Franklin. This one is.
And then Miami is
Ron's
process.
Yep, I live just two streets over, around 22nd.
Yeah, so it would be great that we, we're not asking these questions when you're coming for a final vote.
Of course, I'll make sure to attend those meetings.
And this will be at 9:40.
Okay.
So you've got two sets of these. 9:20 and 9:40. Those back if you like.
Back to you guys in the next meeting.
Could I have one of them be updated in the minutes? All right, the next property on the agenda is 525 Sawyer Boulevard.
Here, you want to take your postcard?
Yes.
Oh, you haven't. And this is, this Sawyer Tower project. They're requesting 3 variances. So would you please introduce yourselves, and then you have 3 minutes to describe your project.
Yeah. Hi, I am Beth Seedorf. I'm an attorney at Voorhees, Sater, Seymour and Pease here in Columbus. And to follow the theme tonight, I wanted to be an astronaut actress at the same time. So I don't know how that functionally is going to work, but I did not achieve my dream, and I'm an attorney. So, and then you guys can introduce yourself.
Max Zarin, Paths Development. We're one of the developer members of the team pursuing this project. I wanted to be a ship captain.
Oh, wow.
Clarence Simmons, one of the development partners of Simmons Corporation, and also represent the GC partnership of Simcoe Construction and SK Development Constructions.
What do you want to be as a guy?
Oh, man. I want to be Dr. J.
That's a good one.
I want to be Dr. J.
Oh, Dr. J.
Oh, yeah. That don't.
Yeah, real skills.
All right, well, we're excited to speak with you guys today about the future of the Sawyer Towers property. So the subject property is approximately 7.1 acres and is located on the south side of Caldwell Place and includes the terminus of Sawyer Boulevard. So it's currently improved with the vacant Sawyer Towers apartment buildings. It's zoned AR2 with a height district of 200 feet. And the Sawyer Towers currently holds 392 units and have approximately 405 parking spaces. So as many of you know, the two 15-story Sawyer Towers were closed on Christmas Day 2022 when frozen pipes burst and the apartments had to be condemned, displacing hundreds of residents. So the applicant desires to raise the Sawyer Towers buildings and construct an affordable housing multifamily apartment community with 380 units. So unlike the current 15-story towers, which exist in sharp contrast to any of the immediately surrounding homes in the King Lincoln Bronzeville neighborhood, the proposed development will consist of a mix of 1, 2, and 3-bedroom units inside of 8 buildings. We are currently proposing 7 garden-style 3-story buildings flanking the northeast and southeast portions of the property and 1 central 5-story building at the center of the property. If you could, you've got a presentation, if you could go to the site plan, that would be really helpful. Right there, perfect. So with the underlying zoning in AR2 and the existing height district of 200 feet, the applicant can build the proposed 380 unit apartment as of right for the density and height rules in the City of Columbus Code. However, to provide the community with the highest quality project, which is much more in line with the surrounding neighborhood, we're here to request a recommendation in favor of 4 variances. We've added 1 after receipt of our staff report and modified another. So I'll walk through those briefly. So first, the variance to reduce the 1.5 parking spaces per unit, which would require 570 parking spaces for 380 units to allow for a total of 275 parking spaces, which I'll refer to as the parking space variance. Second, a variance which requires landscape islands to have 1 shade tree for every 10 parking spaces for parking lots of 10 or more spaces, to have 18 parking lot trees where 28 parking lot trees are required for 275 parking spaces. That I'll refer to as the landscape island tree variance. The next one is to reduce the required 25-foot perimeter yard to 0 feet in its closest spot, but it varies on the site plan in different places. That's the perimeter yard variance. And then lastly, properties that are within 80 feet of residentially zoned property must have a 4-foot wide landscape buffer, and in 2 places on the site plan, on the eastern side and the southeastern, or the eastern side and the southern side, to reduce that to 0 feet in those places, but we will have an opaque fence there. So it's just the distance of the landscape buffer is the variance. So the applicant's committed to working with the Bronzeville Neighborhood Association and the Near East Area Commission more broadly. So the applicants met with NEAC in April and July of this year to discuss the project and has heard feedback from the community. And through extensive conversations with architects, engineers in the City of Columbus, the applicants incorporated some of the feedback that we've gotten here. So one of the things we've done is reduce the 5-story central building length from nearly 500 feet to 414 feet. Created more open space around the central building, added seniors-only amenity spaces to the central building, added more seating to the gazebos near the playground and sports courts, added a tot lot to the sports court area, and added connections and walkways from the garden buildings to Caldwell Place. And you can there's a couple of elevations and a little bit further down in there. That's the current buildings, yep. And then if you want to keep going. Yep, there's one that's reducing the width. Yep, so you want to keep going a little bit more? Keep going. All right, so there's the 3-story garden buildings, and that's the view from Caldwell Place. And then I think that we'll stop there for now. We appreciate the collaboration with NEAC and look forward to continuing to work with you all. It's important to know where we are in the planning, design, and development process. So we're still working toward final design and engineering. So the site plan is subject to change except for the items we're asking variances for. We're committing to those things only on the site plan. However, for example, we've submitted this site plan to the City of Columbus for preliminary site compliance review, and last week we met with them and they provided us some feedback and we've incorporated that. So even between when we submitted the application and now we've had some changes. At this time we have to obtain these variances, one, because we have to get our zoning approvals in place prior to our Ohio Financing Agency submissions for our tax credits, and then also to move forward with the final engineering phase of this. So we're hopeful that we're as close as we can at this point to being in a final spot, but we know that there's some things that are still subject to change. And I just want to walk through a couple of the NEAC guidelines with respect to the variances we're asking for. So with respect to the zoning guidelines, one of the components is to compare the density and massing of the proposed development to the buildings that are in the proximity, with priority given to the immediate proximity and then secondarily to the block and neighborhood. So here, if you look back at, you see these elevations here. Again, they're conceptual at this point and unrelated to our variances, but we believe that these conceptual plans for the building heights and the arrangement of the property and the massing and the overall feel of the development is much more in line with these multifamily to the north and then the single families to the east. And specifically, the central building being 5 stories located in the center of the property and then stepping down to the 3 stories on the northeast and south side of the property is more in line with the community, as well as the 5-story building is 100 feet shorter than the current Sawyer Towers. And then in terms of the block and neighborhood, the proposed development has a similar zoning history to the Atchison Place Lofts, which is at the Sawyer Boulevard and Atchison Street. So there, the Atchison Place Lofts had an underlying zoning that permitted the 4-story 80-unit building as of right, but the developer needed a couple of variances for parking reduction, building lines in the side yard. So we believe that the proposed multifamily community as currently proposed is much more in harmony with the neighborhood than the existing Sawyer Towers. And do you have a couple more minutes or a minute or two?
Try to wrap it up.
Okay. Yeah, so that's pretty much where we're at. But one of the things that I want to make sure that we understand is, Columbus is experiencing unprecedented growth, and every unit of housing that we have is critically important. And so we are thankful of your time and appreciate your efforts here as part of the community. And we're happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. So I'd like to start off in the site plan. I find it a little confusing. There are dark gray boxes, there are light gray boxes, and there are white boxes. Would you explain to me what the difference? Does the color make a difference?
Yeah, maybe I can just walk through the site plan. And the dark gray and the light gray for the 3-story kind of garden style walk-up buildings around the perimeter of the site. There's no real distinction in terms of the housing typology. It's just kind of indicating how we're breaking up the massings of the buildings and the facade designs to make the buildings feel as neighborhood scale and contextual as possible. So it's kind of just to denote, for our purposes and yours, to understand that, and you can see on that Caldwell Place view, this might be a portion of the building with one facade treatment, and then this would have a slightly different facade treatment, so that it doesn't feel like one, unrelenting design down the street. And then obviously the 5-story building in the center would have its own massing and facade design approach.
Thank you. So the other concern I had was reduction in parking. I will admit that looking at site plan, the parking is quite logical. But so if you remember from the community meetings, one of the complaints we heard from the neighborhood was the overflow of parking onto the street from the old Sawyer Tower. And I don't see that that's going to change much unless you're planning to use both sides of the Caldwell Place for parking for those units facing Caldwell. And that would then ameliorate some of my concerns about the lack of formal parking within the complex itself. So is that part of your strategy in terms of reducing parking, that you're expecting some of the renters of the units at Caldwell Place just park on the street?
So the use of Caldwell Place isn't currently contemplated. That's, as I think most of you know, is a privately owned street by CMHA.
Oh, it is?
Yes, so that's not a public right-of-way, that's a privately owned street owned by CMHA. We are in the process of securing an access easement from CMHA. They're very amenable to granting that. But granting an easement for parking along Caldwell hasn't been part of those conversations. Now, please continue.
Well, I was trespassing today.
It's not, you'd be surprised how many people didn't know that.
Yeah.
So I would encourage you to at least try to get a parking easement. So you can really reduce some of the parking congestion that I think is gonna happen, because you're still, you have a senior building, and seniors
That's right.
are gonna need to drive. The other thing that I'm curious about, do you have a place for bicycles and for scooters?
We definitely have bicycle and micro-mobility parking to meet zoning requirements. And that's actually, Beth kind of alluded to some of the feedback that we got in our preliminary site compliance plan review. One of the areas of focus was making sure that we have adequate parking for bikes and micro-mobility. They've actually asked us to provide enhanced parking to meet the standards that have been set in the zoning reform, even though this site isn't mapped to a zone in. And that's something we're still working through. We just kind of preliminarily discussed that, but I think it's something that we all see the value of, and we're working towards accomplishing.
Well, one of the things I would also suggest is negotiating, having actually a electric scooter drop-off point very close to this complex. So people who don't have cars have easy access to an electric scooter, because even at my age, I've used electric scooter and have a lot of fun.
That's a great point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and the other thing that I am aware of, and I'm not sure what you have thought about, but there appear to be no Coda bus stops anywhere near Sawyer Towers, which sort of makes sense. There's one Sawyer Tower closed. There was no reason to have any bus access points around that area. So have you discussed with Coda trying to get a bus at least close to the new facility, so people, if they don't have cars, can actually just get on a bus? And as a bus rider in this area, it really stinks, because they come either every hour or every half hour, except maybe in the morning they come a little bit more frequently. So it's really hard to get a bus in this neighborhood. And this, you're on Woodland, so you can actually get a bus. But the fact that parking is limited, and I think it's reasonable to encourage people to use alternatives as opposed to transportation. But not having bus service close to this is going to be, I think, a problem for anybody who thinks they're going to take the bus, even if they have access to a scooter to get to a bus stop.
Yeah, we haven't spoken with Coda about it yet, but it's something we would love to work with them on. Yeah.
So would you explain I'm sorry I'm dominating this. Would you explain the landscaping plan again? Because I noticed in the site plan, you have really quite a few trees.
Yes.
As part of that plan.
So
that, face the parking lot.
yes, so the interesting thing is, so in this zoning code, you have to have a number of trees per unit. So here it's one tree for every 10 units. We have 38 dedicated trees just for the unit count. And then we additionally have the parking islands tree. So in the feedback from the city, and they can't count together, they have to be separate. So, we have, we have enough trees for the unit count, but the parking lot islands, especially because given the configuration of the parking lot the way it is, the city is counting those kind of little bump outs, for lack of a better term, at those ones as the islands, even though they're not literally an island. So we're able to get 18 of them, but we just can't get 28 based on the 275 spaces.
Sure. Oh, thank you very much.
Yes.
Any other planning questions? Yes, Commissioner Frost.
If you let me go first, it relates to that last question.
But is it gonna go long?
I was-
No, not at all.
Is it gonna be relevant, or is it gonna be?
Quick and relevant.
Okay.
If I ask one question, because I just want to be sure about the conflict of interest. You've not chosen a syndicate yet, have you?
We have not.
Okay, so no conflict of interest.
The question I had was about the trees and the island, to make sure I understand it better. Is if part of me maybe misunderstands it, is part of the reason they require certain trees on the island of parking is that have to do with the heat island effect, or are there other reasons they require certain number of trees?
Yeah, I think it's also for like drainage purposes and things like that. There's lots of, and like aesthetic purposes. I think there's lots of different things, but yeah, I think from stormwater purposes, they help to, suck up some water too. So yeah, and prevent erosion and all kinds of things.
And the alternative that you have with the landscaping here, does it at least ameliorate some of the needs that the island would have, the tree islands?
I mean, What needs are you specifically
So
referring
if there
to?
are drainage needs, if there are heat island effect, I guess aesthetics
Oh.
aside, I don't think the
Mhm.
aesthetics are gonna matter because there's a reason you chose this design for the parking, correct? So I'm not too worried about aesthetics, I'm worried about
Mhm.
functionality.
Mhm.
And I'm worried about like the health and safety of the folks here. So I wanna understand if there are health and safety effects of having trees on the island in the parking. Is the design you have here, does that ameliorate some of the needs that those trees would otherwise be doing?
I can speak to that. I mean, I think there are, as Beth said, a few things that the trees accomplish, right? It's shade to reduce the heat island effect, it's stormwater management. The site design that we're proposing has far more square footage of permeable surfaces than the existing site. So, in addition to the number of trees, just the amount of softscape landscape area is much greater than is what's on site currently. We're contemplating about 100,000 square feet of permeable landscape area. So that's, a little over 2 acres of the 7 acres of the site is permeable, whereas now it's almost all hardscape. And then in addition to that, from a stormwater management perspective, we will also have stormwater collection basins under the central building to help supplement stormwater management capacity to make sure that we are not pushing too much stormwater runoff back into the system. We have some stormwater collection capacity on site.
So I'm understanding this better than what is there now, but maybe not quite what the city is asking for in the initial, and that's why you're here for variances, is that correct?
As far as the number of trees?
As far as number of trees, maybe heat island effect, but it seems like you're managing your stormwater very well and those things. So I just want to understand there's like a gap. Like this is where we are now, not so great. You're gonna make an improvement. City's requiring this, but you're getting very close.
Yeah, and I would just say the way that, and Beth, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but the way the city zoning requirement for the parking lot trees is just the number of trees. So it doesn't say anything about, are you retaining enough water? Are you not? Are you providing enough shaded area? Are you not?
That's
It just says,
It's
we should
literally
be
just
providing.
per 10 spaces, you have to have 1 tree. So then it's just a
And
multiplication
we're
effect.
10 short.
Yeah, 10 short.
So we're 10
Thank you.
short.
Any other, well, yes, Commissioner Frost.
I appreciate the kindness for letting me go first.
You
I
said
tried to make it
short
as,
and quick.
I think that was as short and quick as I could have made
You know
it.
what it was, and I'm a giver, and I'm glad
I
that.
appreciate that very much.
And so I'm going to, add like 3 question-ish kinds of things.
Yeah.
The first one is, and I am so in the minority when I say this out loud, but I'm gonna say it, and I know this is going forward, and I'm happy that it is. And I know the drawing might not do it justice, and what does? It looks almost like you took a suburban subdevelopment and dropped it into Athens. It has a real suburban, it does to me, I'm not saying, I said I'm the minority, so. Okay, and then the other thing that, I guess in your presentation, and this, I can't even put a question mark on it. We talk a lot about what was as the model for what should be. What was wasn't good. Sawyer Towers wasn't great. And so to base this on replacing that and the whole, it's almost like this whole mindset about this neighborhood is reflected again in this design and this congregate housing. So I'm concerned about that. I know it's going forward and I just want to say that I think this. So if the goal was simply to replace units, you've done that. But if the goal from the city perspective or anybody's perspective was to make it better, I don't think we got it. And my final question is, have you engaged, and it's not your responsibility to, but have you talked to commercial developers? Have you talked to business concerns? Because you're dropping a whole lot of people in that suburban subdevelopment in the middle of 43203 with no grocery stores and no real commercial. And so our boat's kind of full. And we're adding people to the boat, but we're not adding capacity. We're not adding anything to make it a neighborhood. We're simply putting congregate housing in that space. And I love the bicycles and the scooters and the trees, but people have to eat. And so if we're gonna cut down on parking, we are assuming that everybody's gonna be driving. if we're gonna add a bus stop, we're assuming not everybody's gonna be driving, where are they to get the food that they kind of need? I can get in my car, but I have to go to Whitehall. Yes. I have to go to Baxter. I can't even, if I want to eat something quick, I have to go to the Duchess. I eat dinner from the Duchess. And it's a fine establishment, but that is what the reality is over here in terms of business development and commercial development. So I know this is going forward, and I know you don't have the, and Pat, maybe you do, but you don't have as a group the responsibility of trying to make this not just living, but livable. It'd be cool if those engagements.
I mean,
That's my zip code too.
yeah, and I very much hear that, and it's not the first time we've heard that. So those messages have very much been received, and we're happy to continue to hear them. I mean, I will say, we have met with a few different folks who are more focused on the commercial side. I just recently met with the group that's behind the redevelopment of the retail at Mount Vernon Plaza. And had a great conversation with them about the synergy between what we're doing and what they are aspiring to do at least. We had a conversation with another local developer whose name is evading me right now. Just totally.
Michael Kelly.
It was. Thank you. Yeah. So we had a conversation with them about the need for commercial development. We also had a conversation with the group that works closely with the Bronzeville Neighborhood Association running the farmers market. Whose name I'm also forgetting. Yes, thank you. We met with her.
Have you met with the Moses Realty family that is redeveloping the neighborhood house?
Spoke with them this morning.
And
We've spoken with Boyce Safford, ex-gen, we've spoken with a number of folks. Have been, I'm sorry. Yeah, in fairness, just want to make sure, give everyone there, you know, and we receive feedback and such, whatever, trying to figure out what works, whatever. And the hope is there's other opportunity, I like to do for myself, whatever, you know, that could be an opportunity, but at the same time, I mean, if someone comes in and snatches up, whatever, you know, then it kind of hurts ours or whatever. So I will say, I understand your words. I appreciate it. I mean, you're vested. You know, you've been here. You understand what goes on, whatever you do. I do believe that this site is. We all weren't here when Sawyer was first built. Notice. So at the end of the day, they knew the best they had, whatever. That's what they did, right? So now, I'm not dating you that. Yeah, you're not that old.
And you are so correct. I think though, when places like that went into neighborhoods like this one, and when we can almost talk about the freeway. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so we get to look back on what they did and do better. And so I'm not saying that we question them, but they did the best they could, but we now get to do better. So.
Any other planning? Yes.
Mine is, the central building, am I clear that that's where the seniors will be?
That's right.
Okay. And another thing, it's kind of, not this planning, but grassroots planning. I've run across numerous people that previously lived in the Sawyer Tower. They're still displaced, and I'm just wondering if there is, you know, if they're able to come back. Also, is anybody in the city keeping a running record of maybe who was displaced or who, like, to give them a first dibs kind of sort of, you know? And I have a building over here on Mount Vernon, and I didn't know that the person that I paid to clean my building lived in. And so he sleeps in his truck and on his trailer, and sometimes I let him sleep in my building, but he's still displaced. He said he hasn't been able, and another thing that he shared, as well as the lady I spoke with from Colonial Village, they can't get in touch with people to verify their rental history. So it's a lot of people who don't know how to navigate through this, and the towers deal messed a lot of people up, and those are the people that I deal with. So I'm just wondering, how do we start compiling a list of the people that may want to come back and get them pre-screened and all that? And that might not be your thing, that's the property management, but just think about them too,
Yeah,
like the
but
plan.
yeah, no, thank you for raising that, and I don't know to what extent that list exists. I do know, I think city law does have a lot of that information because I think they've given notice to a lot of the tenants to provide them information about how they could potentially reclaim some of their possessions that had to be abandoned on Christmas 2022, and give them information, fortunately, about asbestos exposures in the building. So I do think some of that information is in the city's possession. And it's something that we speak with them about if there's an opportunity to open a conversation about coming back to the new development once it's done. You know, it's a few years down the road. I really hope that anybody who's still displaced has found stable housing by that time, because by that time, we're gonna be talking about 5 or 6 years
Oh,
in
okay, that's
between,
how
you
far.
know.
And just to piggyback, I
I
mean,
didn't realize it was that.
that was absolutely horrific day. I got the call, folks got the call. I still speak to Commissioner Crawley and, Joy Bivens and such. Those are folks who were there, and they say the way that folks have to move out and such, whatever, I mean, they compile a lot of artifacts and things, whatever, they just moved because code and there's some conditions there that wasn't gonna be helpful to health and such, whatever. So, we have these conversations. I wanna make sure that you guys know and such, whatever. Maybe a couple of faces that you haven't seen before, but we're here. Mark, my partner over there, we built Poindexter Senior Facility. We were part of Poindexter for CMHA. Now, we can build it, CMHA does the rest and such, whatever, but we're here, we've been here, and we wanna make sure that we continue bringing quality product to this neighborhood or whatever. I grew up in a neighborhood very, very similar to Cleveland, off of 130 from Buckeye. So, and, we talk about where you wanna be. It was be Dr. J, but also to own a business to actually have to do something, right?
Okay.
So at the end of the day, it's really important that, I'm here, I'm not going anywhere, Mark, Max will be here, whatever, but hopefully in 3 years, 3.5 years, whatever, this will be a project you guys are proud of, and, we look forward to that.
Any other?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilbur.
So just a couple things, I'm not here to be, granted, and I just wanna have an honest conversation. I think, a lot of the issues, that people have with this development are rooted in the fact, in the development of Poindexter Village. And the lack of ability to maintain those properties. So we're talking about National Church and McCormick Barron, some of the biggest developers in the entire nation, right? And they're vertically integrated. They have management companies, they have construction companies, just like you guys, and they're struggling. They have Hope 6 properties that are no longer funded, they're really struggling. They're struggling to maintain staff and management. I mean, even Walter Cooper, someone mentioned Atkinson, is struggling to maintain staff. They're vertically integrated, right? We have an insurance crisis on the management side, on the real estate side. Vertically integrated. They still can't do anything about it. And so, we have commissioners that live in these properties and see firsthand that their maintenance folks aren't there because the current fair can't keep them, NCR can't keep them. And so that's where I believe a lot of the inquiry comes from, right? And that's where my frustration lies. I know that you mentioned Mount Vernon Plaza. That's another out-of-town developer from Chicago.
Yeah.
That's right.
And so you have to realize that the view in this community is that we have a New York developer talking to a Chicago developer, all out of town, about two developments that are right next to each other, right? And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but that's not viewed well, right? And so just a couple actual pieces here, right? I'll get to like actual substance here. When we talked last time, when I saw you guys last, which I wasn't at some of that in between pieces, but huge community meeting.
Yeah, sure.
Cameras and all that stuff. I guess we got cameras here too. We talked about the rent levels being at 60%. And I'm just still confused as to why you didn't choose to do a mixed income community. That's one thing McCormick Barron got right about Poindexter, is they did a mixed income community. And so I know that you mentioned the zoning, what do you guys call them? The standards outline, you know what I'm getting at. But what you didn't mention is the Near East Area Neighborhood Plan, which might be over 20 years old, but it's still relevant. Well, some of those pieces are still relevant. We want walkable neighborhoods.
That's right.
We want pocket parks. We want places for people to gather and commune together. And so we want mixed income neighborhoods. That's straight out of the neighborhood plan. And so that's my first question. I guess I don't understand why we've stuck with the 60% AMIs across the board, because what makes me nervous about that, and I'm not trying to nail you to the wall, but one of the folks that was with you said, well, you know, the way that the 60% AMI works is folks are just gonna be paying 30% of the rent. Well, that's true if they're at the 60% AMI.
Yeah.
But there's folks in this community that are making much, much less than that. And as you probably know, the real gap is workforce housing, 80% above and 30% below. And so I'm just really confused as to why you guys are really well connected. You have engaged Ice Miller. You have engaged really powerful people in the city. And I'm confused as to why you haven't looked at project-based subsidy. I'm confused as to why this is not a mixed income property. And so that's sort of the question I pose. Why are rent levels still at 60%? Why is this not a mixed income property?
Well, we have looked at project-based subsidy, and we've had many conversations with CMHA about getting an allocation of project-based vouchers for this project. And what Scott Amaral has told us in the many conversations I've had with him is that the voucher program that he runs is in a total state of limbo right now. He doesn't know if he's going to get a robust allocation or not another voucher. And he is waiting to see what happens with what this federal administration does in their budgetary process, and knowing how that flows to HUD and ultimately down to local housing agencies as far as the resources that he has. Now, what he has said is that they're very enthusiastic about providing vouchers to this project if they have them. It's just a huge if, and we've been having this conversation for a year now since we were awarded this property. So it's not for a lack of desire to have project-based vouchers supporting lower incomes. And it's not for a lack of the desire of CMHA to support such a thing. They just don't know that the resources are going to exist to do the type of structure you're describing. If they do, we've talked about providing vouchers for as many as 50% of the units. And if they do that, then we can look at introducing an 80% tier, 80% median incomes to balance it out and provide a broader of incomes, but it all hinges on CMHA. And I have a standing reminder on my calendar to bug Scott, which I do. And the last many months he said, like, maybe next time. So that's all I can say is we genuinely want to do it. And it's not for lack of trying.
Sure. I mean, I understand your point, and cash flow is cash flow. You could have still done the average income test and gotten to the 80% rents, or and met your 60% average. In my opinion, we want mixed income communities. That's just the bottom line, and we can. However you go about that is sort of your business. I haven't seen your perform. I've seen what you proposed to OFA for the 2026 allocation. That's about it. Really upset to see just 60% units across the board. Because what's going to end up happening no matter what is there's going to be tenants that are at 30, 40, 50% AMI. They're paying more than 30% of their income towards rent because they're all designated at 60. Whether we want that to happen or not. The other piece, I guess I would just mention on that is that I know that CMHA is having budgetary issues, but it's because they're over budget. It's not because they're waiting on the allocation because they're over budget. They're not waiting on the allocation because they're like, oh, we don't know what we're going to do. Of course, they want their new allocation to be more than what it was, but they're over budget. And so they have to get that in alignment. There's subsidy land reviews that have been stopped, halted to zero. So my next piece is management capacity.
Excuse me, I'd like to defer this conversation. We need to get to zoning and we can come back.
I have two substantive questions left.
Well, could you please defer until after zoning has their input? We can come back.
I think we're in the, I will defer to the chair if that's
Thank you.
within the power of the chair, but
yes,
my feeling is that this is the planning committee time. And so if zoning wants to go, that's fine, but I'm gonna sit here through zoning's questions. Is zoning, are you guys not unwilling to?
Excuse me, I would like to turn the meeting over.
Do you not recognize me as chair?
No, I don't.
Okay. well,
Okay, well, we'll come back to that.
Yes, we will.
So I have a couple of questions. I'm glad to see that you reduced the length of the central building. I have a couple of questions about that building. So when you reduced the length of it, did you reduce the number of units in it, or did you reduce common space in it? How did you accomplish that?
We made the layouts more efficient and we went to some smaller unit sizes.
So that building still has the same number of units in it as before, or I just was curious
It's,
whether you
it's
were-
176 units and it's, I mean, it may have been 178
Sure,
before.
sure,
but
that's a minor point.
yeah.
Is it all senior?
That building is all senior.
Okay.
You know, in part, in response to the feedback we got last time, we decided that this concept of intergenerational housing with families with small children and seniors was maybe misguided.
In
And
the
it's
same
better to,
building, yes.
and it's better to focus on all.
That was a comment.
And so we've
That
now
we
made,
made earlier.
yeah, so we've now made this building exclusively for
Next
seniors.
question.
Sure.
At the previous meeting, you had all of the community space in that building. And that's kind of where we got into that, like, discussion about, well, if it's a senior building, are we having the community space for children and families in that building? And we suggested that wasn't such a good idea. Our letter to you suggested that you create a freestanding community space outside of that, so there would be a place for kids to come after school and all of that, because it's not the best, plan, although it sounds, idealistically, it sounds like a great thing to have intergenerational stuff, and you could still have that to an extent, but seniors tend not to really be that keen on having a bunch of children
That is correct.
do the noises that are coming into their building. So I'm wondering whether you did anything with that idea. Is there a separate place, community space for families?
So we did a couple things, and this is probably, getting into the weeds a little bit, but away from zoning, but we have reworked the circulation on the ground floor a little bit so that those amenity spaces are a little bit more partitioned in that building and are accessible without entering the portions of the buildings that are really the senior residential areas. The other thing that we've done is introduce some amenity spaces on the upper floors of those buildings that are exclusively for seniors, so that seniors have some space to gather that's separate from the spaces that will be used by the tenants across the property.
Made more sense, though, to put you've got all of these family units around the periphery of it, and I know you're like absolutely determined to get 380 units in there, which is a different issue, but wouldn't it have made more sense to have, like, had that main building there be just senior and to have had a separate community space for families?
Yeah, I understand the perspective. I think our perspective was that we were trying to make that space as central as possible so that people in the southeast corner didn't have to walk much farther than people in the northwest corner, and that it served as a central hub and gathering space that's equally accessible to everybody, because we know one of the impediments to actually using these spaces is if they don't feel accessible to everybody. We wanted them to be spaces for everybody.
And I'm just now following up really by memory of the things that we had recommended to you. One of the comments, wasn't mine, but one of the comments that had been about the walk-up units was like that felt very kind of crowded and dense on the street on what's that?
Caldwell.
Yeah, and did you make any changes to the facades or the way those units fronted on the street in response to the comments that had been made?
We did, but maybe I either misremembered or misinterpreted, because my recollection of the feedback was that it was more oriented towards a lack of connectivity between the buildings and it's not a right of way, but the right of way.
Yeah, there was that, and the fence putting a fence in front of that really kind of made that feel.
Yeah, other way, it's probably page 7, right?
There is one.
Yeah, a couple more.
Yeah,
There we go, more like 13.
That it is just a rendering, we understand that it may not be exactly that, but it just seemed like what does that fencing accomplish? It makes it feel like it's walled off from the street. What's your thought about that?
I mean, I think in our experience, when we operate a lot of properties like this, is that it does provide real security. We don't want the site to be completely porous. We introduce some entrances and some gates so that there is more of a sense of connectivity, and the tenants living on the ground floor can directly come and go from Caldwell. They can welcome guests there. But in our experience, for the safety and security of the people living there, we want to be able to have eyes on who's coming and going from the property, and to have a site that is completely porous. We do this in a lot of places. It's not in the best interest of the tenants and ensuring that they have a safe place to live.
All right, well, the last thing I wanted to say was just, we had urged you to reduce the scale of the project. Now, we understand the underlying zoning of AR2 permits the number of units you're doing. You're not even asking this for a variance. And that's because what was built there, the zoning was intact for the project at the scale that it was, and so you're taking advantage of that. But the question is really about the wisdom of that, and I think Commissioner Wilbur was hitting on that. And to put it another way, made this point before, that I'm just not aware of a project that's all affordable housing at this scale that has succeeded long-term. And so one of the reasons that we urged you to reduce the scale of the project closer to 300 units anyway, was that would have opened up a little more open space, and it would have created a little more opportunity for, I don't know, you could call it livability or whatever, and you've chosen not to do that. And you've moved forward with getting financing commitments from the city, you've moved forward to submit the project to OFA. At the point you did, so basically disregarded those suggestions. The project moves forward. I wish you well to this long-term success, but it doesn't seem like such a great idea to pursue it extensively. And I would yield the next 2 minutes to Commissioner Wilbur to finish asking the questions you wish to ask.
And guys, I'm not here to, I really wish you well. I represent, members of the community, and I feel like it's my responsibility to say something. I underwrite these deals, at Enterprise, every
Yeah,
day.
I know. Yeah.
And so, I guess my second question is just on management capacity. What do you guys do internally? Like, you guys are vertically integrated. What are you doing internally to try to keep staff? Because I know staff turnover is huge in the management. We've seen that, at Poindexter and whatnot. So how are you guys incentivizing staff to stay? How are you retaining staff as much as you can?
I mean, I think one of the things that we've found is the best way to retain staff is to have enough staff, which is, I mean, it's maybe counterintuitive in a way, but, having adequate staff on our sites so that folks aren't spread too thin and they don't feel like they're constantly pushing the rock up the hill, helps us keep people. I think that's how we've had the most success. I think we offer good pay, we offer good benefits. I don't know how much comfort those sorts of, kind of vague assurances are to you, but I can tell you in a more concrete way, I think we've currently underwritten a project manager or a property manager, an assistant property manager, a super, 7 porters, and a services provider. So what is that? 11 people whose full-time job is the successful operations of this property.
And on the insurance side, how are you guys addressing that here? Obviously, you're kind of new to the market. I know you have Ledgewood, maybe another property somewhere in Columbus. Are you guys trying to pull that? You guys are big boys in the industry, you know what I mean? And so, I'm sure that you're getting better rates than some of the smaller developers, but how are you sort of trying to address that insurance price? My concern is that if insurance goes crazy, then it's gonna be hard to maintain the property, right?
Yeah, I mean, and this is a problem everywhere, right? And,
absolutely.
We do benefit from the economies of scale, and we have big policies that we put a lot of projects into that give us some some better premium rates. That's what we intend to do here. This wouldn't just be lumped in with Wedgewood and anything else we do in Columbus. It would be part of the policy that, you know, a dozen other more properties that we own, and that gives us some better rates. And then, you know, all I can say is we do what we find is effective as far as planning for these things. We try to have a conversation with our insurance broker early, try to underwrite with a little bit of a cushion in anticipation of prices continuing to go up. You know, make sure we have some room in our OpEx assumptions.
Yeah. That's the only other piece I would mention is I know that it's just preliminary. I really wish you luck on $5,404 per unit. I think that's really low.
How much?
From what I see in the OVA submission, it's like it's
The OpEx?
5,404 per unit on the annual
OpEx?
operating budget. Yeah.
No, we're underwriting 8K.
Okay, well, that's actually really, that's a substantial amount, and that's probably in the neighborhood of where it needs to be, and so I'm really glad to hear that,
I
actually.
mean, that's our experience, you know, with insurance, with payroll.
Yes, it's, yeah. That's the end of my inquiry, really.
Can we move?
Yeah, that was the end of my inquiry, Commissioner Lococo. I'm sorry that you have issues with, standing up for the neighborhood and, you know, asking substantial questions.
All right, so who else on zoning wants to
I have a
go?
question.
All right, you can go first, then you can go, Tony?
So my question is, we've not seen a project of this scale being razzed since Poindexter Tower. How do you plan on razzing it? Are you imploding it? And how do you plan to protect the surrounding houses?
So the two towers will be essentially deconstructed. They're not going to be imploded. They're not going to take a wrecking ball to them. We're going to start with the abatement. We're hoping to start that in October. It's probably 4 or 5 months of crews going through and manually removing all of the asbestos-containing materials, watering down the buildings for dust mitigation, extensive rodent control, air monitoring to ensure that asbestos-containing, friable asbestos and other hazardous materials aren't getting to the air. So again, that's probably about 4 or 5 months. That probably takes us to early next year. And then the demolition begins. The demolition is a combination of manual crews, again, almost manually deconstructing the building. And I'll confess, I don't know what it's called, but it basically looks like a giant pair of scissors on a 150-foot long arm that just snips steel beams. And then crews are bringing out the materials as they take it down floor by floor. You know, we talked about imploding it. That was obviously not the right decision for the neighborhood. We think this is the way to minimize disturbance, minimize dust, minimize noise. And we'll put all the protections in place. We talked about this with community members at the April meeting. And, you know, in addition to the things we're doing on site, it's also the things we'll do off site. You know, we'll go speak with all of the homeowners on the south side of the site. And, you know, and Jeff will be leading point on a lot of this. You know, if somebody comes to us and says, hey, you know, my car got absolutely covered in dust, like, you know, we're here and we'll take responsibility.
Maybe on call, we had some conversation, told them, gave them our numbers and things. And, you know, be there to make sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think we gave out contact information to some of the homeowners that fully intend to continue to do that.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Anyone else on zoning have any questions or comments?
So if we had a unit for every time someone brought up the housing crisis, we wouldn't have a crisis anymore. I think that some of the other comments from other commissioners and members of the commission are spot on. Having horrible design and going to bad design might be a step in the right direction, but it's still not taking advantage of the opportunity we have with this site. And throwing out that we have a housing crisis, the Near East Side is not the only community responsible for finding solutions to that crisis. So we're happy you're at the table. I'm still concerned about the scale of this project. I'm concerned about how it fits into the neighborhood. I'm concerned about the residents who are there. And I don't know that I've seen anything that really gets us to where we need to go. So, thank you.
Anyone else? All right, back to you.
Any other planning questions?
I just have one comment. I wasn't at any of the other meetings. I unfortunately missed them where you all presented. But just as someone who lives in the area and the like, I gotta say, this design, like, we aren't New Albany. We're not the Hamilton Road area. We're not, all of those areas that you see, you drive past and it's just like these ginormous apartment buildings. Like, that's not us. Like, these facade choices and everything, like, it's better off up in Hamilton Road. It's not down here. And I'll say, like, the one thing Poindexter did really well is that they have, these homes that have like the very, very walkable area. And then, I mean, the one probably downfall of that project of the entirety is the building in the center that is for the senior care, because it is so imposing, which is what you guys have designed as well. It's like just a big, massive, imposing building. And it would be nice if there were some facade choices that maybe softened it. I don't know if you guys have been down to like Gravity or anything like that. But if there's green walls and the like, they soften it, and it's unique, which our community is. And so to have something that just feels very, just, I don't even know, just cookie cutter that would be up in the suburbs, be here. Like, I think, you have opportunity in this neighborhood to make something really great and make it be for this community. And it would be nice if that happened. Now, I know we're not, we can't tell you how to design it. That's not our job. But I think it's worth it to say. So,
Thank you for saying that. And, I'll just re-emphasize where Beth kind of wrapped up, which is just, we have, the choices haven't been made.
Yeah.
Like, there's still room. I don't even want to say there's still room. We haven't even gotten to facade material selection. We're kind of showing just
These are
color
conceptual designs.
blocks. And
Yeah.
so,
well, yes, like
so I'm glad to get the feedback now. We hear it. I think when we get to that stage, we'll take that to heart. Whatever concerns you have about the design, I hope you don't leave here thinking that it's finalized, because it's certainly not. And I think we have a long way to go in that respect. I think here, for all of the progress we've made, we're still just kind of showing white and green and lighter green. These aren't really selections.
The trouble with this is that we have to vote, the planning committee has to vote tonight. They have to vote based on what they have in front of them.
Yeah,
We
absolutely.
run into this problem all the
I
time
do.
here. This isn't the only project like that. And so the question is, next month, when this comes before the full commission for a vote, will it be a different design or not? It may very well not be, because this is the plan you also submitted to OFA, and there's still some room to make little changes, but it doesn't seem like there's been, other than shortening that building, right? It doesn't seem like we've changed anything else now in 6 months.
Well, I would just phrase it as we haven't progressed it. It's not that we haven't changed
Sure,
it.
there have been some little things, but I'm just saying, it's like, they're gonna have to vote based on what's in front of them, so.
And I do appreciate, I just want to also bring it back to like the specific thing of why we're here are just these 4 variances. That's the real reason why we're here. The other stuff is, again, we're hearing what you're saying and we're taking it with us, and we will take that with us to the design portion and try to integrate those things as much as possible. But at the end of the day, what we're here for are these 4 variances. And the rest of it is, again, we are hearing what you're saying. But the real reason why we're here are these 4 things.
And I understand that. That's a very good point. If I were in your shoes, I'd make the same point. However, the reason that you only have room for 275 parking spaces is it filled up pretty much every other square inch with buildings.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, if it was a less dense project, then you could be at 1-to-1 parking, and that wouldn't be much of an issue at all. So I'm just sort of.
I mean, in fairness, today there are only about 400 parking spaces. So there, there's no scenario where we could get to a zoning compliant parking.
The only other option is to go up to get the Sawyer Towers.
We always have approved, at least as far as I remember, if somebody comes in with one-to-one. And we know that the city is more flexible about that, but they have this illusion that people will be taking the bus. And it's like, not that many people really gonna take the bus, truthfully, and you've heard that tonight. And so it's like, seems like the 380 units and 275 spaces, it'll be a bit of, whatever, musical chairs about who can get the spaces. So that does seem to be concerned. That is one of the variances you're asking for. And that goes back to the question of the density that you.
There is a question from committee member Shields and then one from Commissioner Benson, and then we're done with committee questions.
And mine is more of a comment, and I'm so grateful, even though I know your purpose is not to hear the feedback, but I think as long as developments are going on, it's so important to hear and know what's going on. Thank you for being sensitive, and I end my comment with what my earlier reflection was on being a teacher. Life is real. The best teacher.
Almost took the words out of my mouth. What I'll say is, as we get ready to probably wrap up the night, my comment is a comment, not a question. It's to say it may be helpful after this to have future discussions to ameliorate maybe some of the questions and concerns folks have, regardless of how the vote goes, because that may be helpful for you all to move forward in whatever your next steps are. And I know we're going to have future conversations, but I think it would be particularly important after we're done to kind of collate and get that information to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any community comments before we move forward? All right, I'd like a motion to approve the project, please.
So move Benson.
Benson moves. Is there a second?
I'll say.
Shields seconds. All those in favor, raise your hand, please. 2. All those opposed? 6. Abstentions? All right. The motion was defeated.
It'll still go to site visit meeting. This is October 4th, 10 o'clock. We need you to fill out cards to notify people who live within 125 feet of the property, just as if you're being when it goes forward for your variance approval at the city level. So you know how to fill these out in your area commission, October 4th, 10 o'clock. You know who you are and you know where the location is. I think we'll probably have to find it at the main entrance.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what do you guys do exactly, and what do you need to see?
So what will happen is we may have community members show up who got notified. Our zoning committee will show up, and you'll show up, and we'll find each other. And I think it's a big saying. I mean, but
I think the specific person might be
goes on at it.
Yeah,
you'll make a presentation. You'll lay out the same materials unless you've changed them by then. And I would come with handouts, your handout materials, because we don't have the availability of having a screen, so we'll have to look at something. Talk through it, 3 minutes. Give a brief overview of what you're doing and what the variances are you're asking for, and then it's sort of a free-for-all, like people, ask questions, make comments, whatever, and then the zoning committee will vote at that time. At the end of that, and then it will come back to the full commission, the third Thursday, whatever it is, second Thursday, I'm so sorry, of October, so it'll be, maybe the next Thursday, right after that meeting. That'll be the final vote of the commission. So here's your cards. Fill them out, and if you don't do it tonight, bring them back to this building and get them to Mr. Ovalle. He will mail them.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Chair,
Yes.
when you guys meet with zoning on site, they're gonna vote on the variances, right?
Yep.
There may still be community members who come, and it might be really cool to just say, to nod and say, okay, as opposed to say that we only have authority over variance. Because sometimes people just need to say how they feel about a thing, and they don't necessarily need you to fix it, or because it's not getting fixed. So it might be nice just to say, thank you for making a comment.
The other thing is,
Just advice.
we'll want to know what the position is of the Brownsville Neighborhood Association. If we know it before the site visit meeting, that's great, but we absolutely need to know what their position is on it for the full commission. We would be tempted on a major project like this, if there's not been a vote of the association, we may not even be willing to move forward on it.
So they'll typically vote and provide like a letter
That's
of either
correct.
support or.
That's correct.
Okay.
So you'll want to meet with them.
We've met with them a few times.
I understand, but now they'll need to vote on it
Understood.
before the full commission is going to vote. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
There is one more presentation tonight. It's not on the agenda. It's Franklin Park Conservatory. Please come forward and introduce yourselves.
Let me know which one the last one belongs to Franklin Park Conservatory. Just take a look at it.
It's just one edit. Thank you. Okay.
Hey, is it okay if I present up there? Does it work with your cameras or?
Yes.
Okay, great.
This is right here.
We'll introduce ourselves and then I'll move up there.
Okay.
Great. Good evening, everyone. I'm not sure how long your meeting normally goes, so I'll try to be brief.
You can
Because
go
this
on forever.
information. Oh, okay. I'll go on till 10 o'clock then. My name is Bruce Harkey. I'm the president and CEO of Franklin Park Conservatory and Botanical Gardens. And it will come as no surprise to you that as a child reading Agatha Christie novels, I wanted to be a gardener on an estate in England. So there you go. I'm joined with this evening with Olivia Hickman, who's with our development department. And Olivia, what did you want to be as a child?
I wanted to be an artist. Yeah. But now I work in fundraising.
There's an
ultimate art form.
There's an art to that as well. So,
Yes, it is.
well, we really appreciate the opportunity to meet with NEAC. I've come to many times over the last 19 years that I've been at the conservatory, as the conservatory has worked with Columbus Recreation Parks and the community to continue developing Franklin Park and the conservatory. In a little bit of history for those of you who are new, I joined the conservatory in 2007, and since 2007, we've completed two major master plan projects, Master Plan 1.0, Master Plan 2.0, and we have been very successful in working on those projects to continue strengthening the financial position of the conservatory. Many people don't know that we maintain all of the property, and so it can be a bit of a challenge. But we also are very committed to the conservatory's mission to ensure that people connect with nature, have great experiences in their lifetimes, and create a sense of belonging. And one of the things that is a really great example of that is prior to the opening of the Children's Garden in 2018, the conservatory's attendance was around 300,000 per year. 3% of our attendance was free and reduced, meaning that folks who were part of various government support programs were able to come to the conservatory for a reduced fee. With the opening of the Children's Garden, we really increased our access program, so 3 programs that are particularly important. We have a library pass program. We were the first organization to start that program, where you can go to a local library and check out a pass for the conservatory so you can attend when it's convenient for you. We also, with City Council President Shannon Hardin, announced Community Day. So the first Sunday of every month, we're free to residents of Franklin County and the city of Columbus. Since that program started in 2018, we've welcomed over 120,000 folks to the conservatory for those events for free. And then the third program is a program that a lot of people are not familiar with. It's called Museums for All, so please help spread the word. We are, as part of the IMLS program, the Institute for Museum and Library Services, if you're part of any of those various government support programs, you can come to the conservatory for $3, both for the daytime and the evening experiences. I was meeting with my peers across the country for botanical gardens. Our rate is 5% of our attendance is from Museums for All. The national average was only 1%. And the reason for the difference is that we made a significant investment in marketing that program to the community to make sure that they were aware of it. So with all of those programs, our free and reduced percentage for attendance has gone from 3% in 2017 to 25%. So one of every 4 attendees to the conservatory is coming free and reduced, which is really important to us because we want to ensure that everyone has an opportunity, especially with all of the challenges, however you want to view those challenges in today's world. Nature is therapeutic, and we need to find places of refuge for the entire community. So with that, the conservatory was established as a nonprofit in 1993. We had an original master plan that was developed by my predecessor, Paul Redmond. We used that master plan to continue growing the conservatory since 1993. With the growth of Columbus and with all the changes in our community, we felt like it was really important to think about what is the conservatory of the future. And we spent about 6 months developing what we're calling a North Star vision. We worked with a woman named Annie Gallagher and her firm, Gallagher Consultants, worked with the community, worked with our board, leaders, donors, to really articulate what our future vision is. And it's to be a premier botanical garden destination. And as I mentioned earlier, connecting people with nature, a lifetime of experiences, and belonging for everyone in our community. But we all know also that Columbus is growing significantly, and so we need to be ready for that growth, and we need to make sure that we are able to continue serving the public. So we decided to develop an all-new master plan called the North Star Master Plan that will guide the conservatory's growth and development over the next 25 years. And we rolled this plan out in May of last year, and was very well received. We're working with Director Reese from Columbus Recreation and Parks. They are also developing a comprehensive master plan for the park system. And so we want to, with this master plan, achieve this big, bold vision. So I'm going to move over there and quickly walk you through all of the changes that will happen in the next 25 years. And for those of you who are not, you're all involved in construction and planning, so you know very well, master planning is sort of where things will go and what the ideas are. There are some projects that have already moved to construction documents, but most of the projects are in either concept or schematic design or design development. So more to come, but I will move over there and share the ideas. So I'll move from west to east, not in any priority of projects, but just to make it easier for you all to understand. In the original master plan, the idea was to move the entrance for Franklin Park and the conservatory to Woodland Avenue. I know the young lady, the bedazzled hat, lives on Woodland Avenue, so the entrance to the conservatory and Franklin Park will move to the traffic light.
I can stand on my porch and look at the park.
So that's where the entrance will be in the future. There's a traffic lights for safety, and there's also, I know there's lots of discussions about bus transportation. There's a bus stop right there, which will be really convenient for folks coming to visit that space. One of the big changes that happened, as you know, the entrance to the conservatory is over here to the east. MKSK, which is our local design partner, came to us halfway through the design process, and they proposed a change to the orientation of the conservatory. What they proposed is the creation of a new visitor center that would be in the middle of the property. And that would function as the physical manifestation of what we're calling the shared ethos. How do we achieve a relationship between Franklin Park Conservatory, Columbus Recreation Parks, and the community? And this visitor center will have, of course, a gift shop, a restaurant, event space, but more importantly, it is going to serve as a visitor center or a welcome center for this entire property. The first floor will have restrooms, it will have lockers, it'll have an orientation space that talks about the history of the conservatory, of Franklin Park, and of this neighborhood. So it's really gonna be an amazing space. So if you're walking in the park and you need to use a restroom, you're welcome to use the visitor center. The ticketing will be after gift shop and the restaurant so that there's not this awkward, I want to go into the restroom or I want to go to the gift shop. You'll certainly be able to do that. This has not even been designed yet, but that is a really important change. One of the other big changes is, are you familiar with the Navstar sculpture, the big metal sculpture left over from Ameriflora? We have proposed, and everyone seems very excited about it, to move that sculpture to the lower lake in Franklin Park. So you may be aware that there's a public art program that has been developed for the city of Columbus. So we're working with the artists, with Greater Columbus Arts Council, and with the city to figure out how do we do that. So the idea would be refurbish that sculpture, reorient it, bring it to life again, and then maybe add a water feature and some light so that it will become part of the public art program for the city of Columbus. What that does is it frees up 6 acres of space. One of the things that the designers discovered is that we are 65% turf and concrete and only 35% gardens. We want to flip that and really have lots of amazing gardens. The overall theme is gardens, gardens for all. So we're working with Recreation and Parks to move both the conservatory property and Columbus Recreation and Parks property to an arboretum status. And then as we develop this property, to continue adding more gardens throughout. So we will have, can you lower this just a bit?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So this area, who are the Buckeye fans? So it's hard to get your head around how big things are. All of these gardens that will be constructed in this space, a new beautiful garden in front of the Palm House, a new meadow, and a new art garden. That's the equivalent of 4 football fields of new gardens that we'll be adding. Along with this visitor center also, we'll have underground parking. So we want to preserve as much green space as possible. There'll be 350 parking spaces in the underground parking structure with beautiful gardens that are publicly accessible. The most important project, which is the highest priority, is the renovation of the Palm House. The Palm House was built in 1895. It's one of 6 glass houses dating back to the Victorian era. That project is shovel-ready. And we've spent almost 10 years working with a company out of Cincinnati to determine how do we restore that Palm House to make it an amazing visitor attraction, a place for a new plant collection that'll be world-renowned, but more importantly, returning it to the historic Victorian curved glass. And so we are going to move forward with that plan. We're going to lower the floor 18 inches. We're going to restore a bridge that used to be part of the Palm House to improve accessibility and guest experience. So that's a really exciting project. In the small way on the Wolf Terrace will be water features. One of the really cool water features is called hypnosis. 2 jets of water that will come together and create an orb of water that moves. These are things that don't exist anywhere in the world. This grand garden will be waves of color that change throughout the 8 months or 9 months of the growing season, but also a real focus on environmental sustainability. I know I'm tired of trying to keep my garden alive, watering all the time. This will have 500 trees, 400,000 perennials, 350,000 bulbs, and 500 shrubs, but a real focus on environmental sustainability so we can help educate the public about what to plant to be more resilient. The meadow to the north will be all about native plants and lots of topography, an extension of the children's garden, but really celebrating native plants and helping to educate the public. The main building was built in the 1990s. That building will be completely reimagined. The second floor will be gallery space, some kind of food service. The first floor, though, will become K-12 education space. And it'll still serve as the entrance for groups and for visitors, but imagine all kinds of classrooms in that space and an indoor version of the children's garden, which doesn't exist anywhere in the country, inspired by horticulture. The existing glass houses that were also built in the 1990s will get reimagined, improved for accessibility, a real focus on international plant collections. This one will be all about tropical plants from anywhere in the world. This one, which is currently a desert, a Himalayan biome, and a rainforest, the walls will be removed. This will become an arid or a desert biome, celebrating plants from all around the arid world, arid regions of the world. And perhaps in both of these biomes, a second floor canopy walk, so you can really be immersed in horticulture and gardens. 2 new biomes in the future. We've been to blooms and butterflies. We're going to build a purpose-built butterfly biome that really improves the immersive experience with the butterflies. We'll expand the children's garden by 1 acre. This area, if you're familiar with Dale Chihuly and Chihuly glass that we have the largest collection of Dale Chihuly glass in the botanical garden world and one of the top 5 in the country. We've already spoken to the Chihuly studio in Seattle, and we're planning to build our version of Chihuly gardens in glass with a gallery experience, a botanical experience, a garden experience, and a hot shop. And then moving to the south, where the community garden campus is, which is a celebration of edible gardening. That's where we have our education programs and teen core and our farmers market to really address some of the food desert concerns that we heard about earlier. We will expand our greenhouse operations to support all of these new gardens, but these greenhouse spaces will be accessible to the public. So in the future, you'll be able to go into the greenhouse and shop for plants, but more importantly, we have some really great programs like community gardening program, Growing to Green, all of our education programs, teen core programs. Those will be housed also out of this complex and create new opportunities for young people to get connected with the green industry. The community garden campus, built in 2009, needs a refresh, and so we hope that this entire area, along with the farmers market, the accessibility of the greenhouse complex, and some food service could be a really exciting destination on the weekends. So those are all of the major projects. Olivia, did I forget any?
You got it all.
So a lot of exciting projects. Some really great news will come out on September 30th. So check your media sources. You'll see some exciting news about what's to happen next. But that's the North Star Master Plan for Franklin Park Conservatory.
Thank you very much.
Happy to answer any questions you have.
Got your work cut out for you.
Could you tell me your name again?
Bruce Harkey, Harkey. And if you go to our website, which is fpconservatory.org, there's a button that says North Star Master Plan. And this is up there, but also more interesting images of each of the individual projects.
So my first question is, where's the money come from?
That's a great question. The conservatory for the first 10 capital projects raised $43 million altogether. The conservatory, a lot of people think, oh, well, you get all your money from the city and the county. We're a really unique organizational structure. We are a joint recreation district, which is a public-private partnership. So it's an equal partnership between the city of Columbus, Franklin County, and the conservatory's board. In 1993, the budget was $1 million, and 95% of the funding came from the city of Columbus and Franklin County.
Wow.
Fast forward, when I started, the budget was $4 million. As of this year, we are now $16 million. And the earned revenue has increased from, 49% when I started to now 72%. So the percentage of funding for the city and the county, which is typically around $850,000 for operating support, the city also provides very generous capital support. That only represents about 6 or 7% of our total budget now. So it's either earned revenue from tickets and memberships and events, and then about 3 or 4 million that the development department, not only Olivia, raises from our corporations, individuals, and foundations. The way we raised money before for the capital projects is every dollar of public support, whether it was from the city or the county or the state, was matched 2 to 1 by the private sector. So it's a really great fundraising model. The other point I would make is the Palm House is beloved. We want that to become the landmark for the city of Columbus. We can have other things other than the Buckeyes for which the city of Columbus is known. So we think that this will create a significant regional draw for the conservatory and for our community. We've been working on the Palm House project for many, many years, and we've been working with SHPO, the State Historic Preservation Office, all the way through to ensure that the Palm House and the Show House remain on the historic registry, which was established for us in 1974.
Any other questions? Any comments?
I have a
Yes,
One,
Bill.
two, three questions.
I'm sorry, Mike.
Go,
Should
yeah,
I
go.
go? So as fantastic as this all seems, I spend a ton of time in the park. I live 1 block off it. And, you know, the park is an enormous asset for the neighborhood, aside from the conservatory. I know you're 90% of your focus is, you know, on the things here with the conservatory, but while this is all going on, I don't want to get too far into the weeds on this, but just we have to preserve the functionality of the park for all of the people that use it.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, it's fantastic, you know, on a nice day to see the diversity of people that use the park for all of the things they use it for. And I just hope that that availability of the space remains before, during, and after all of this.
Yeah, we're absolutely committed to making sure that we continue to elevate both the conservatory property and the public spaces. And I was struck a couple of days ago when I was coming to work, and there were runners. There were like 5 middle-aged guys walking in the park, and there were families in the park, and people walking their dogs. And I think there's something really special about that property where the community has evolved and changed, but everyone feels a sense of community, and we are absolutely committed to not only maintaining that, but really enhancing that experience for everyone in our community.
I hope so. Thank you.
Yeah, and there'll be a neighborhood advisory committee that we establish again. We did that during the first 2 master plan projects, where we had representatives of NEAC. I think Kathleen Bailey was on the committee, and Fred Ranciere and other folks from all of the different neighborhood groups, because as we go into construction, it can be disruptive, and we want to make sure that 2 things, we can help you understand what we're doing and how it may affect the public during certain stages, but also help us figure out how to communicate more effectively to the different neighborhoods.
Right.
Speaking of communication, I called the conservatory probably 2 months ago.
Okay.
Because I have not seen any communication about, since probably pre-pandemic, about the annual tulip dig that you guys used to do. And I haven't heard anything. And when I called and spoke with some woman, she really didn't give me any information about how that was going to continue or
it's still happening.
What was going to happen to it.
Yeah, so you know,
it was around Mother's Day.
Yeah, so we plant tulips in the fall. We redesign them every year. So next year, not surprisingly, red, white, and blue to celebrate our 250th birthday. At the end of the tulips, which are typically March or April, we have a tulip dig, because if you left them in the ground, they wouldn't bloom the same level because they're all hybrids. That is coordinated with our volunteer groups. So after all the tulips are done, we have lots of volunteers who come in and dig up tulips. We certainly would appreciate the help. So you can reach out to me.
I was there a couple times.
Yeah, it's great because you leave with bags of tulips and it's great. Yeah, we're still doing that. Now in the future, we'll have probably less tulips that we're digging up. We're going to probably focus more on naturalizing, but in the short term, we will still be doing that. So yeah, reach out to me. You can find my name is Bruce Harkey, so it's bharkey@fpconservatory.org, and we can connect you in the spring with the right folks. Because otherwise, if they don't get taken, guess what? They end up on the compost pile. And so I'd be happy to give them to you.
I'm old school. Can I have your phone?
Oh, sure. 614-715-8072.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I think there's
Any other questions or comments?
Oh, sorry. I
Yes.
actually had a question. Where could I get more information if I wanted to about the project itself in terms of, I have questions that I don't think this is the right place to ask, and I may not know the answer to.
Okay.
But if I want to follow this closely, you mentioned a website, and I don't know if that had the information.
So the website is, if you just Google Franklin Park Conservatory, it's www.fpconservatory.org. See someone done that already? Yeah. And there's like a couple of bars on the left-hand side where it says Life is Happening. If you go down, there should be one that says North Star Master Plan.
As long as it's on there, I will.
Transparent underneath Life is Happening. You go
Go on, my eyeballs.
under current exhibition.
Oh, I see, okay.
And
there it
then
is.
I think that last one.
There it is.
There you go.
Yep, so if you click on that, it'll walk you through all of the projects in the North Star Master Plan, but if you have more specific questions, I'm happy to chat with you about it. Okay. And maybe, while I'm sitting here, maybe I can ask a point of clarification. I know that I had to go through that on-site visit when we were removing the Fest House, which you probably remember.
Right.
Left over from Ameriflora, had roof leaks, it was falling apart, scary things were happening there. So we requested that it be demolished, and we went to NEAC for approval on that. For these projects, what is NEAC's role as we proceed with construction?
Well, as chair of the planning committee, it would be nice to have conceptual reviews of the buildings you're supplying.
Okay.
And then, the other role are variances. So if you have no variances, the conceptual review may be the only presentation you would make. But if there are variances the city requires, I assume the city's going to be involved in.
Correct.
Right. So the variance process would come through NEAC.
Okay.
Part of.
Well, I suppose if they were wanting to expedite a demolition permit, if you were demolishing something.
We're not demolishing anything, so the Palm House, of course, will be restored, so that wouldn't be an issue.
I'm just saying that's the only other.
One thing that comes to mind, so all the parking that is for Columbus Recreation Parks for the amphitheater and the Davis Center.
Yes.
That parking is actually going to eventually go away when the new visitor center is built. So when we get to the concept stage for the visitor center, which, we're sensitive to making sure that it fits with the neighborhood, but it also doesn't upstage the Palm House. The Palm House is the star, right? It's the historical icon. We're thinking kind of mid-century modern, more low slung, lots of glass. We don't want to create a wall of brick in the middle of the park, so we're sensitive to that. But all of that parking that Recreation Parks currently uses will move to a location closer to where they are. And we'll actually have more green parking. So in front of the conservatory, we added bays of trees and shrubs to reduce it from being just surface parking. So we're going to move their parking, we're going to pay for that, put in more spaces for them, and then the existing parking will be demolished and replaced with green space and a drive up and some new gardens. So when we hit those moments in our process, we'll come back and give you updates.
Yeah. But the conceptual review would be probably the most important thing.
Conceptual review?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we're not even at program or requirements for the visitor centers.
And if you can break it down by building.
Sure.
So, we get to see you more often.
Yeah, the visitor center is probably the big one. That'll be a couple years out, so. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the time.
Very nice.
One last thing is that we had some neighbors from the Eastgate neighborhood that did a documentary for Woodland Park, and it was discussed by one of our neighborhood historians that Franklin Park is the original Ohio State Fairgrounds.
That is correct. It's also the location of, or it is Hell's Speech during the Civil War. So something I should mention also, opening on Saturday, because you're welcome to join us. We're going to have